When I, 28 female, was a little girl, my mother married my stepfather, Nick. My mother was a loving and involved parent to Nick's son Ben, now 34 male, but not to me. There were pictures of my mother, Nick and Ben all over the house, but none of me. They found any excuse to have family time without me. My mother once told me that it was hard for her to love and look at me because I looked so much like my father. My father was an alcoholic and a cheater. My mother and Nick would constantly comment about how I would be a failure, an embarrassment, just like my father. Ben was extremely cruel to me, and my mother and Nick only responded to his verbal, emotional abuse by telling me to respect Ben. My only familial support was my paternal grandparents. They supported me unconditionally. They helped with my college, and I moved in with them after graduation. My grandparents are now in heaven. I inherited their home and have lived there alone for 3 years now. I've tried many times since graduation to talk to Ben about how his bullying impacted me. But unfortunately, Ben takes no accountability for any of his cruelty toward me and only says how even if it was that bad, we were just kids, or why are you still caught up on that? That was ages ago. I hadn't talked to Ben in almost 2 years before he reached out to me through social media. Ben explained that he and his family were being evicted from their previous home. Apparently, it's bad enough that practically nowhere is willing to accept Ben and his family as tenants. The only place willing to take them is in a highly shady, dangerous area, and he feels it isn't safe for his daughter, Adeline, a very young female child. My mother and Nick weren't an option, so he hoped that he and his family would be able to stay with me. I admit it's a big house, 3 bedrooms and a large yard and garage. Ben said that Adeline could take one room and he and his wife could live in the other, and he offered me a sizable rent. I told Ben no and that I really didn't feel comfortable living with him again because of what he put me through as a child. Ben made the same arguments about that was in the past and that we probably wouldn't need to interact with one another because of our differing schedules. I told him no, and that was final. The people that I've explained this situation to are divided. The people supporting my decision say that Ben has never treated me like family, and he doesn't get to waltz into my life demanding familial support when he hasn't even apologized for his verbal and emotional abuse. But many people are telling me to think about Adeline because my decision will be the heaviest impact on her and not Ben. And I should know more than anyone else that no child should be punished for their parents' bad choices. So now I'm conflicted about my decision. Am I the idiot for refusing to let them move in? Not the idiot. This is disgusting. Your mother shunning and neglecting you because you looked like her ex and your stepbrother's family being evicted are not comparable. The only reason he's contacting you is that he needs something from you. Oh, and also he won't take accountability for being a bully to you in childhood, and you don't owe him anything. Wait a minute, he offered you a sizable rent, but they're being evicted and no one else will rent to them. They would move in and would probably never pay rent to you either because they are family. I'd suggest installing security cameras on your property if you haven't already, and also take back any spare copies of your keys and change the locks. That, or money, isn't why they're being evicted, and that's worse. Let's put aside his cruelty to you when he was 6 years older than you, and also his complete lack of responsibility for his actions for a moment. For the sake of this argument, let's pretend that he was a good person and never did anything wrong that you know of. You don't know why he was evicted, but you know that nowhere else will take him no matter how much he pays. I can't think of many reasons that would get you evicted which aren't not paying rent related. Sugar use, stealing, frequent calls to the police, damage to the property, other sources of violence, none of which OP wants to come within a mile of her house. If you're getting crap now for a situation you didn't cause, what level of crap will you get when you must evict them for doing whatever they've been doing? Don't take the easy way by appeasing them temporarily. It really isn't the easy way. Also, why is living with your mom and his dad a problem? Maybe they already know the reason for such a messy eviction. Anyone telling you to let this idiot into your home actively wishes you physical, financial, and emotional harm. Avoid them and their advice going forward. Better yet, ask if it's okay to pass on their contact info to Ben so they can accommodate him and his family. We both know Ben won't pay you a dime of rent and cause you damage. My young teen daughter is a tough kid, so I gave her a surprise party with close family for her birthday. The thing is, my younger daughter, toddler, is a very picky eater and eats almost nothing, so I chose food that both my younger and older daughter like, such as vanilla cake, meatballs, cookies, and orange juice. Unfortunately, I'm financially struggling and can't afford anything else, but I did what I could to make her happy. She wasn't happy. She was nagging the entire time and ruined everything. She refused to cut a cake because she only likes chocolate cake, which is not true. She's not picky. She didn't eat anything else either and told me her dad threw her a bigger and better party with food she liked and spent the entire party in her bedroom. She went to her dad's home and called me a few days later after that and said apparently her dad says she's old enough and doesn't have to come to my home again. I blew up at her dad, who called me an idiot for always prioritizing my other kids and not knowing what foods my daughter likes. You are the idiot. It's not making accommodations. It's blatantly not allowing your oldest daughter choices on her birthday and prioritizing her siblings' feelings and picky eating habits over what she enjoys. It's her birthday, not yours or your other kids. So you catered to your younger child's brattiness and ignored the actual birthday child's preferred foods, and she didn't get to choose her own cake? She should stay with her father. Enjoy your do-over family. Sorry, your ex is right. You blatantly chose your toddler's picky eating over your daughter's birthday. You could have, at the very least, given her the cake flavour she likes more. Your toddler will have to grow out of that picky stage sometime, and being catered to all the time isn't gonna help. Also, I think you need to stop resenting your ex for his money. It's not villainous for him to be comfortable, and you're the one who chose to have more children on your income. Don't be surprised if she decides she wants to live with her dad full-time because it sounds like he's the only parent who's prioritizing her. And hey, if money's that big of an issue, you should be happy she wants to move out. One less kid to care for. Isn't she solving the problem for you? She's not a difficult child. You're a crap parent. Backstory. I, 43 female, have 4 kids. L, 22 female, Katie, nearly adult female, Cam, teen male, Isla, young child, and I'm also currently pregnant. My husband, 50, and I started adding college funds every month for each of our kids as soon as we found out we were pregnant. I won't say the exact amount, but my husband has an excellent job, so it's more than most. We never told our kids because it just didn't feel necessary. Elle got pregnant young and ended up dropping out of school. I was very disappointed, but I understood. However, I was under the impression she would return later, but she has no plans to. The dad stuck around, and now they have one more kid, toddler, and one on the way. They're engaged but don't plan to marry until they can afford it. They were doing okay financially for a while, but due to the market right now, they've been struggling because Elle can't get a job since she doesn't have a diploma, so we've been loaning them money. Katie is a senior and just got accepted into college. We've been setting everything up and she knows about the fund now. Katie and Elle were talking and she was telling Elle about the school and Elle asked how she was planning on paying for it. Katie responded, "My college fund." I was in the room while they were talking and this made me panic. We just planned on splitting it between the remaining 4 since we knew they were going to college. Elle asked me if they all had one and I wasn't going to lie, so I said yes. She got really excited and went to call her fiancé and tell him the good news. I was confused and told her she couldn't have the money. She asked why and I said it was for school. She got upset and left my house. The next day I got a call from Elle. She was crying and begging me to let her have the funds so she could finally afford a down payment and maybe even a wedding. I told her she could have the money if she went back to school, and whatever money was left over, she could use it for whatever she wanted. She got super mad and started yelling at me and saying it was her money. I told her that it was my money and those were my conditions, and she hung up. Now we're being harassed by her fiancé's family. They aren't as fortunate as us, calling us idiots and many other names, saying it's all going to go to waste if she doesn't use it, setting her up for failure, etc. Now I'm wondering if I'm the idiot because my dad said we should give her the money as we saved it for her after all. So, am I the idiot? You are the idiot, so you know that your little Isla and unborn future maybe kid are planning to go to college. Why the heck didn't you tell your kids about the money? This is one of the most foolish things I've ever heard of. The eldest 2 got unfairly blindsided. All of the other kids will know, there's no way this will be kept a secret. Eldest daughter might have made very different choices if she'd known there was a fund for college. And what happens if the eldest daughter decides to go back? She's only 22, or if any of her other kids don't. What if they want to go for graduates? What if one kid chooses an Ivy and the other community college? You speak dismissively about the committed man who stuck by her side through teenage pregnancy, another child, and has asked her to marry him. You speak as if she's less than because of a mistake she made in high school. It's not about money or education, it's about control. You are mad and punishing her because she chose a different life path. Not the idiot. A GED is affordable and doable. She's choosing to keep having kids she can't afford. She doesn't need a wedding. She needs a reality check. If she put forth minimal effort to better her life, it would be reasonable to ask for some money. A fancy party does nothing to feed and clothe her kids. You offered her what's left from the fund if she goes to school. She's decided that school isn't important and save her funds for the grandkids. Agree, it's not her money. It never was, and it was never a trust fund. It was money set aside to fund an education for her, and you have made it clear that it's still very generously available to her to do that. As a 22-year-old high school dropout with 2 children and a third on the way, she should be realizing, if she has matured at all, and based on her and her husband's struggles of the last few years, that going back to school and getting an education is the best possible thing that she could do for her future and her family's financial stability. I, female 32, have a friend who we'll call Ellie, female 32. I've known Ellie since we were around 7, our mothers are good friends. Ellie has had a very, very privileged life. Her dad is a lawyer and her mom is a dentist, so you can imagine, Ellie had many more luxuries and opportunities than your average person. She grew up attending private schools, having private tutors, going on fancy vacations every year, etc. I won't go into too much detail, but I didn't have a life like Ellie's. Ellie never had to get a job until she went into residency in medical school when she was 26. When we finished high school at 18, Ellie initially went to business school for 2 years before dropping out, then pursuing medical school. Her parents paid her tuition and living expenses, so Ellie never struggled financially and never had to worry about money. Plus, her mother got Ellie volunteering opportunities so she could get references on her medical school applications. Ellie is now a qualified pediatrician. I'm glad she was able to find a career path she enjoys, and I'm proud of her for finishing school. I know medical school is no walk in the park. I'm a veterinarian. A few weeks ago, we went to a town event and we bumped into some of my old friends from high school. We chatted for a few minutes and one of them proudly mentioned she'd finished nursing school. When we went to my house afterward, Ellie made a very rude comment about my old friend saying, "I bet she was just too dumb to go to medical school," and went on about how great she is. I told Ellie that what she said was rude and uncalled for. Ellie said it was the truth. I snapped and told Ellie, "You only became a doctor by getting handouts. You don't get to make comments about other people." Ellie started yelling at me and telling me that I was a jerk for undermining her hard work and that she still had to work for where she was now. I told her that I knew she still had to work hard, but most people don't have parents who can pay all their tuition and living expenses, and she had it easier. Ellie called me a jerk again and said I was ignorant and that she still had to work hard. Not the idiot. Many people are intelligent enough for medical school but can only dream of becoming doctors due to classist barriers in place. Many medical schools have rules against students having jobs during their studies. Ellie sounds naive and sheltered. Her comment was insulting and unnecessary. Nurses are essential for medical establishments to function. Ellie is looking down on a profession that medical facilities need to work. She makes doctors look bad. Unfortunately, when it comes to higher education, intelligence and hard work frequently aren't enough, so her comment isn't even true. Ellie had to work hard at medical school. Ellie did not have to work hard in life. I hate when people don't acknowledge their privilege. Her comment was very nasty and uncalled for, so good on you for calling her out. I, 28 female, bought a house 2 years ago. It's a very spacious place, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths and a big garden, that I've been remodeling and making my own. My fiancé and I have been dating for 4 years. He, 32, has 2 kids from a previous marriage, pre-tween male and very young female child, that are terrific kids. On top of that, I have 2 nephews, my sister's kids that I adore and love with my whole heart, very young male child and toddler male. My fiancé and I have talked about moving together for about 1 or 2 years, but it's been difficult with the purchase and several custody fights he has had with his ex. He and the kids were supposed to be moving at the end of this year or the beginning of the next. Sadly, my sister and her husband passed away 2 months ago and my nephews were left alone. I knew I'd be asked to take them in and I was 100% sure that I wanted to because I love them and I wasn't willing to let them go in the system, but I talked to my fiancé first. While he wanted me to take the boys too, he didn't like that they had priority over his kids. Since I currently have 4 bedrooms, 2 kids would have had to share, and I was against it no matter whom they were because I don't like the idea of cramping small kids in a room. He said it was okay and my nephews could share a room and his kids could have the other two. I said, heck no, and then he didn't like when I offered for us to move to the basement so all of the kids could have the rooms, with the idea of my son, very young child, having my room, because since his boy is oldest, he should have it, and a few more incidents. Ultimately, as selfish as it was, I decided it was my house and I'll do what was best for my nephews. Due to his lack of empathy, we were no longer moving in together and that we could either plan to add 2 or 3 more bedrooms to the house after we married, or he could go because my nephews needed me more right now. So I moved them in, decorated their bedrooms as they liked and called it a day. I'm still getting texts from him and his family, we haven't broken up, about how I could have made it work because those kids see me as a mother figure, which is true, and I abandoned them to accommodate my nephews, which is also true, sort of. He called me an idiot, so I don't know. Am I? Not the idiot. Your nephews are orphans. Of course you want to treat them well. Your fiancé sounds like some villain from a Dickens novel, for crying out loud. Make the orphans share a room while his non-orphan kids should have priority, first, last, and always in your house? I don't think so. Your fiancé getting his family in on badgering you to accommodate what he wants to do in your house is a huge red flag. Don't budge. If you do marry this guy, do not put him on the deed and get a will made up to make sure your nephews are taken care of because your fiancé doesn't care about anyone but himself. 2 small boys have lost their parents. They are adrift in a sea of fear and uncertainty, and you are trying to provide them an anchor to hold on to. Your SO's attitude makes it clear that he doesn't care about those boys in the slightest, and it doesn't sound like he'd be a good father figure for them. Red flags all over here. My guess is he will always think his kid should be number 1. Cut him loose. So much easier to be an ex-girlfriend than an ex-wife. Get out now.